So we just learned square roots and cubed roots. Now we're going to put some of that into practice with another application called the Pythagorean theorem. And the Pythagorean theorem is going to involve triangles, especially right triangles. What do we mean by a right triangle? A right triangle is those triangles that form that 90-degree angle for one of its corners. So you can see in this triangle we have a 90-degree angle, so this triangle is going to be able to find, or we're going to be able to use the Pythagorean theorem. Why do we use the Pythagorean theorem? What is it for? It is to find missing side lengths of a right triangle. So if we have two of the side lengths of a right triangle, we are able to use the Pythagorean theorem to find that third missing side length. Now, some vocabulary terms that we need to know for the Pythagorean theorem. We need to know what we call each of these sides of a right triangle. You can see that there's a term here called legs, and then there's a term called hypotenuse. So we're going to start with legs. Your legs are these shorter sides, and the legs are the sides of the triangle that form this right angle. So you can see those two legs form the right angle. The two legs are the two shorter sides of your right triangle. And then you have the longer side. Side C is what we're going to call it. And that is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the opposite side of this right angle. The hypotenuse is going to be the important part to identify in today's lesson. So now that we've identified the important vocabulary terms, what a leg is and what the hypotenuse is, we're going to look at what the actual Pythagorean theorem is. And the Pythagorean theorem is this formula down here. We have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. To keep this in mind, we need to remember that the legs are both a and b in this formula, and c is our hypotenuse. So whenever we're placing these values into the formula, we need to put them in their appropriate places. Leg A and leg B, it honestly doesn't matter which leg is leg A and leg B. They can be interchanged. The hypotenuse will always be C. So let's take a look at this in action. So if we go to our next slide, we'll see that we have length A, B, and C, A squared plus B squared. So this side squared plus this side squared is going to equal the square of this side. So here we have a real problem. You can see that we already have two lengths. We have a leg here and a leg here. How do I know they're legs? Well, here's the right angle. So I'm going to call this leg A, and I'm going to call this leg B. And we are missing the side length for C. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, A squared. Well, A squared, we're going to use A is 5. So for A, we have 5 squared. Then in the Pythagorean theorem, we have B squared. Well, 12 is our leg B. So B squared would be plus 12 squared equals that hypotenuse of C squared. So now you have to do a little bit of math. 5 squared, and if you don't know how to do some of these problems, you can come back here to our Google Classroom, go to classwork, find that scientific calculator, and then we can do those problems from here. 5 squared, okay? So 5 squared is 25. Whoops, got to go back to my presentation. 5 squared is 25 plus 12 squared. I already know 12 squared is 144 equals c squared. Our next step is to combine these like terms, 25 plus 144. That gives you 169. 169 equals c squared. Is the problem solved yet? No, the problem is not solved yet. We're trying to find c, not c squared. So we've now found what c squared is, but we have to find out what c is. Since c is squared, we have to find its root. To do that, you have to do the square root of that number. And I'm sorry about that bad radical sign that I've drawn. I'll try to draw a better one over here. So we're going to find the square root of 169. So if you, again, don't know how to do that, you're going to come back here to our calculator, and we're going to find the square root of 169. The square root of 169 is 13. So the side length C equals 13. Now there's one more part that we're missing. Is 13 our final answer? No. This is labeled in meters. So our side length is 13 meters. So we've just used the Pythagorean theorem that a squared plus b squared equals c squared to solve this missing side. Let's go on to our next page. So we have another problem. We have two legs. Today's lesson is going to just be about finding the hypotenuse by using the legs. So we have the two legs. We're going to make this side A. We'll make this side B. If you're wondering how I determine which side to make A and which side to make B, I've just always been in the habit of making my smaller number A for the leg and the bigger leg B. So let's write the formula out. We have A squared. A is 8. So 8 squared plus B squared. B is 15. So 15 squared equals C squared. 8 squared is 64 plus 15 squared. Let's just go back and use our calculator. 15 squared is 225. And that equals C squared. Next step is to combine these terms here, 64 plus 225. 64 plus 225 is going to give you 289. And that equals C squared. To find just C, we find the square root of it. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. So now to find what C is, we have to find the square root of 289. So square root, oops, clear that. Square root of 289. And that gives us 17. So this missing side length is 17 feet. I'm going to put one more problem on the screen. And I would like you to try to solve this one on your own before I walk you through it and give the answer. So go ahead, pause the video, and you can solve this on your own. So here's the answer. I'm going to make this side A. I'm going to make this side B. So we have 20 squared plus 21 squared equals C squared. 20 squared is 400. Let's just double check what 21 squared is. 21 squared is 441. So 400 plus 441 equals c squared. 400 plus 441 is 841, and that equals c squared. To find just c instead of c squared, we take the square root of it. What we do to one side, we do to the other, so we find the square root of 841. I apologize for that radical sign. And c equals the square root of 841. So let's find out what that is. Square root of 841. And you can see it's 29. So it equals 29. So this side length is 29 kilometers. You're now going to have a Get More Math assignment where you're going to solve 5 more of these using the Pythagorean theorem. If you get stuck during those Get More Math problems, come back and re-watch the examples of how we solved this. Also, you can use the section in the book, chapter 7, section 3, and the first page of that section shows the examples of how to solve these again. So if you get stuck when they Get More Math, you can always go back and reference those to help you.